remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. People who wish to watch can go to www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. Again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to move this meeting along quickly, as I promised it would be short. So if everyone could take a look at the minutes that were sent to you. Did anyone have any corrections or discussion on anything that was in there?
So, sorry, I know we're trying to go quick. I do have two quick things.
Yep.
If I could just say them really quick. In line 76, when we're talking about the MBTA communities, I just wanted to clarify one thing. I think Kate wrote it down that I said that the MBTA community zone, we talked about it, the fact that it was supposed to be within a half mile of the train station. And I had said that I think Sarah and I had looked at this, and the other members of the committee looked at this and decided that the South Union property was within the half mile. But my point is the rest of the zone that we were looking at was beyond the half mile. So I don't think Kate quite got it right when she said that Ms. Biscoe knows that the South Union building was included, which is 0.6 miles away, that rather than required 0.5 mile radius. That isn't quite right. Can we just clarify that I think the South Union building is within the half mile radius.
Oh, we do? I thought it was 0.6.
No. I think we measured it before. I think we determined it before that it was within the half mile radius. Although now it sort of doesn't matter because we determined that only half of the whole zone has to be within a half mile. But I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
And then, there's one other thing. I know you want to move along. Oh, where was it?
No, Tom, this is important. It's totally fine. No worries.
So Tom, does it satisfy the meetings to just change it to 0.5, or is there more language there?
Anything that basically says, hey, Ms. Biscoe, thought that the zone had to be within a half mile radius, which encompassed the South Union building. Okay. That's my only point.
Kate can go back to that little section. She knows where it is in the recording anyway. She can just double check that.
Okay. All right, if I don't find this in 5 seconds, I'll just let it go. All right, I'm good.
Gonna let it go? Yeah. Was it important? You sure?
I think it was a reference to the master plan rather than our housing production plan. I think there's a reference of me saying we want to implement the goals of the housing production plan, which is what I meant to say. I think the minutes come out and say that. I said we wanted to implement the goals of the master plan, which is Tom M's territory.
All right, let's see if we can find that.
I don't know where that is, but
that's a big difference. That needs to be changed.
The paragraph about the master plan committee update is first agenda item.
Yeah,
second agenda item.
Should have been any update in the last week.
It was when Tom was talking. He referenced it, Jesse. So that's what we're looking for. Tom, why don't you keep looking, see if you can find
you
that.
want to just hold off the vote on this until the end, between now and the end of our meeting. I'll
let's see if you can find it during the meeting. Otherwise,
okay, that sounds
hold
good.
off the vote on the minutes. Okay, I'll come back to that. All right, moving right along, the warrant article. So we discussed this at the last meeting, and we sent, I asked Sarah to send this along to Mark Purple to get it over to Jay Tellerman. As of yesterday, we hadn't heard anything back. So I reached out to Mark again, and Jay said he wanted to change the verbiage on that warrant article. It didn't read the way he thought we wanted it to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. So he's working on rewording that warrant article. And he had asked for extra information regarding what the votes were in 2009 10 or 11 and 12, actually. So 2009, 11 and 12. So when the town accepted it, approved it, he wants to take a look exactly what the warrant article verbiage was, and he's going to get back to us. We should hear from him possibly today or definitely by tomorrow. So as soon as I get that information, I'm going to send that along to you guys. So hopefully that's within the next 48 hours, you know, by the end of the workday on Friday. So that's where we are on the first discussion. Does anybody have anything to ask or question?
It's line 141, I think.
I just found it too, Karina. Yeah, it's line 141 and onto 142. It says Mr. Biscoe suggested ideas that were recommended in the 2008 master plan. What I was really saying, and actually we're going to talk about today, I was saying we should consider using the funds for the recommendations in our housing production plan.
Which paragraph is it
That
in?
makes sense.
What's
It's
the
line-
Page 3, at the bottom of page 3.
Line 141.
I know, but when we have our minutes, we don't have the lines on there, so that-
Oh, gotcha.
That's not
It's the
helping.
Bottom of page 3, discussion about ARPA funding, which we're actually going to talk about today. On my number, it's towards the bottom. It's like 6 lines up from the bottom of page 3. It said Mr. Biscoe suggested that ideas
Yep.
were recommended. You
got
see
it.
that?
Yeah, and it's not master plan. That should be housing production plan.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Okay.
change the year. It's not 2008.
It's the 2019,
was it?
I believe.
2020.
2020.
2020, yes, housing.
Well, it doesn't matter because the master plan reference is coming out. It's going to HPP. Right?
I
Yeah.
just didn't.
Or you
know
want the
if you
Yeah, it
wanted-
doesn't
2017
matter.
master plan? It's not the 2017 master plan either, so.
Dorian, just for clarification, you don't have line numbers on your, on your meeting minutes?
No.
You don't
no,
have numbers?
No,
I do.
nope. When you print them out, you don't get line numbers.
When you
You-
print them up.
I think that's a setting, Dorian, so we'll have to find that for you so that when it prints for you. Because
Mine
they
has
all
numbers.
have.
Oh, I don't get that. See?
Could be a word
Like
set.
Ah, maybe I have a better printer.
Well, no, you're talking to the non-techie person in this entire.
I'm pretty non-techie as well.
No, you're lucky I can turn the computer on and do the zooming. Trust me. Yeah, well, you may not be lucky that I can do it because I show up, but anyway, yeah, I'm the non-techie person, so I will have my children take a look at the computer for me. Sorry, guys. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Okay, do we get a second?
Second,
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Tom M,
Aye.
Tom B,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Jesse,
aye.
and Dorian is an aye. Okay, so that is unanimous.
Can
And
I
then
ask who motioned that? I heard Jesse second, but who motioned that?
the motion was Alex.
Okay, because sometimes Kate can't hear that. Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. All right, moving right along. ARPA final rule and spending. So we asked everybody to do a little bit of homework and to list your top priorities. And Sarah hasn't heard from any of us, so we're gonna have to do that now. So I'm gonna start with Tom M because he's at the top of my screen. Tom, would you list your top priorities? And you may not have 4, but let's see if we can get a list together and then we can discuss them.
Can I got to do a work email very, very quickly.
All
I'm
right, do
sorry.
that. John, what do you have? You have to unmute. You're muted.
I think I may abstain on that just because I'm on the committee. I mean, I can give ideas. I mean, I have thoughts, but since I'm on the ARPA committee, I think I should abstain and just listen.
Okay, Jesse?
John, so I'm a little bit maybe behind the curve on the ARPA funds. It's about 3 million, right?
3,051,000 and change.
And what, I mean, it's just that there are things that this could get a portion for a wide range of resources for the
Easier to say
town,
what
correct?
it can't be used for, Jesse, and just say it really can't be used for debt. It can't use for paying off debt. It can't be used for benefits. It can't be used for payroll, but it can be pretty much used for anything. They changed the formula for revenue replacement on it. So pretty much we can use the $3 million just like anything in the general fund. So what my committee did is we reached out to all of the boards and committees and department heads, and hopefully soon the public, to say, hey, what would you do? Top 4 wish list, real quick, and just use it as anything else. I mean, a lot of it has to be approved, to be vetted through capital still if it's over $10,000, just that's the way we go. And then they can tell their opinion to selectmen. Board of Selectmen have the overall final say on anything though, because, we're on the advisory. The capital committee is just an advisory role. So it's up to them. So we've asked everybody, what would your top wish list be? Like, I know some people have said sidewalks all around town. Other people have said, trails would be great. This is just people I've heard around the street, not different committees. It'd be nice if this has to do with our committee. And I've just given it, for instance, this is just somebody had said to me, maybe we could make a fund for, rent and mortgage protection like we had before ARPA. So once we get all these, then we got to figure out whether there's other money, because some of these things that people want might come under other grant monies from the state or federal eventually. Too. So
Gotcha. So
Especially the infrastructure stuff.
when the developers had their meeting, Sarah, what was that? That was in conjunction with
Yeah, that
the
was
state agency.
that was the stakeholder meeting for
Right.
the 5-year strategic plan that we're working
So
on.
that one of the takeaways from that, which I agree with holistically for economic development, is a public wastewater sewer system along Route 9. And I think that
Here lies the rub with that, Jess. Deer Island's at capacity. So we can't really tie our septic system, or sewer system into Framingham or Westboro, because Deer Island pretty much, I don't know, I haven't got the official word that they're, like, I'd love to have a letter sent saying that they're at capacity. But what I've been told and what I've been led to believe is that Deer Island is pretty much saying, we really can't accept anymore because we don't have it. So tying into that kind of changes things. So, you'd have to figure out like where you'd want to put a wastewater treatment plant, which Wayland and Sudbury have one that supports all of Route 20, but I haven't seen it. I don't know if it's an underground one like in Westboro, or if it's an open air one, kind of like in Millbury, where you see the ponds and the swirling poopsicles and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's like that.
Thank you for that.
Well,
very
yeah, that
You have to have the
Really,
visual,
that-
because
that
you need to know what we're
imagery
talking
aside.
about.
Dawn, it's morning.
that
I'm
imagery
reasonably
aside,
I haven't even
I
had
do-
coffee yet.
I do feel like that a public system has a lot of value, both for affordable housing and for economic development in general. So that's my 2 cents on the
That's my
3
top,
million.
that's my absolute top.
hang on,
wish,
hang-
But I don't believe Sudbury has any public sewerage down Route 20. There was
They
talk
don't. They
of
have a
it, but I
water
don't think
treatment
it ever
plant.
happened.
That they have a water treatment plant that they share with Wayland. Wayland just got $3 million to tie from.
I
their
see
building.
septic systems right behind my office.
What's that?
There's a septic system right behind my
I'm
office.
not saying they don't, but they also have a wastewater treatment plant on Route 20 that Wayland just tied into. You're welcome to look into any of the Mass Works grants and you'll see where it came into and how much it costs.
Yeah, Alex, like a public water treatment plant would not necessarily eliminate the need for all septic systems in a municipality. And
just
I
wanna
wouldn't
point
expect
out-
that. I wouldn't expect that from this. I think what we're looking for is something to support Route 9.
Right.
You're looking for something
Thanks.
small, Jesse, just on the Route 9 corridor to service the
Right.
buildings. And if we were to put affordable housing somewhere on Route 9, it would service that as well.
I just want to point out, there's a difference between a wastewater treatment plant and a water treatment plant. John, you're referring to wastewater treatment, not a water treatment plant.
I am. I'm referring to
Okay.
waste.
Two
Sorry.
very
thank you.
different things, just so you know when you read those reports. Okay.
I know
Okay,
I know
so-
Sudbury has a water treatment plant. That's a given.
All right, we're getting off topic here. We wanted a small meeting, so I'm gonna get off the wastewater treatment. So Jesse, that's what you would like to use the money for, is a wastewater treatment on the Route 9 corridor.
Can I
Okay,
ask-
Sarah, let's try to take notes on what we're
Yeah,
doing for a list here. Wastewater. Okay, Tom B.
A couple of smaller scale ideas. Well, actually, one bigger one. John Wood mentioned last time the idea of doing some kind of housing assistance. Broadly speaking, I don't know what the vagaries of that are. I don't know how it's implemented, but I certainly love, as Shopc, I love that idea. If we can get some money to fund some kind of fund for housing assistance or mortgage assistance, first-time home buyers. I was going back and looking at some of the recommendations and analysis from last summer when that gentleman came and presented to us on the strategic financial plan for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. He gave us a lot of good ideas at that meeting. And so that was one sort of tranche of ideas he had for strategies, was to develop some kind of housing assistance. So without getting into the weeds, John mentioned that last time. I certainly like that in whatever form that ends up being. That would be a good idea in my mind.
Yeah, that money would have to go to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund because
Oh, it would. Okay.
they're the
Gotcha. Again, I just work here. I don't know how the mechanics of that work, but and then secondly, kind of a omnibus concept. I was looking at this. I'm not sure what was circulated with the meeting invite, but there was a draft One Stop for Growth application that somebody filled in, and had a whole bunch of stuff relating to getting funds to evaluate economic development, particularly along Route 9 and in the town. And one of the aspects of that was to get funds to go through our zoning and make recommendations for removing obstacles in that context to economic development. But I think we have the same issues for affordable housing. I mean, the housing production plan, and in that last summer, that Affordable Housing Trust Fund analysis, they both said, hey, we have obstacles to affordable housing development in our zoning bylaws. They talked about issues with the MRD, and requires some multifamily development, but then requires there to be single family homes, which doesn't make any sense and is a total obstacle to anyone doing multiple family housing. There were issues with, what's it called? Adjacent, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess up the name. Adjacent,
accessory
accessory
dwelling
apartments.
units.
So there are a bunch of things, without getting into the weeds, there are a bunch of things in the zoning. We've heard that theme many times over the course of the last year about how there are issues in our zoning to affordable housing. So I don't know if we can glom on to what's already there, if they're already hiring a consultant to look at economic development, whether either we can do our own zoning analysis and recommendations for zoning upgrades with respect to affordable housing, or we can shoehorn ourselves into what they're already proposing for economic development. But that is, and for our 21 Highland subcommittee, Jesse did a good job of outlining some of the issues with the MRD, which is probably the section in which they would need to develop multifamily housing on 21 Highland. And there are issues with it. So if this is something that we keep coming up against, I think we should look at that. And then finally, my last thing, not huge things, but back on 21 Highland, it's at one point the committee talked about doing a feasibility study for the development of that site. And after some discussion, we basically came out and said, hey, we don't really have the money. We're just sort of this, this study group, and we don't have funds and budgets and things like that to spend $15,000 or $20,000 on things. So we were sort of doing other things by talking to developers and getting sort of, educated information, but not a formal feasibility study. But if we're looking for ways to use, a bunch of money to help further some of our things, it would not be the worst thing in the world to get $15,000 or $20,000 to do a feasibility study on 21. All right, those are my three.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, are you done with your email?
Yep.
Okay, would you like to speak now?
Yeah, so I do, the four I have, and the first two could be in any order. Mine is tied to the HPP. So one of the things is number 2 at the bottom, on page 50, if you guys referencing it, is identified sites for creation of affordable housing. That's the chapter head. So I know we kind of like identified all these little parcels and stuff. I'd rather have an outside person come in and see what we can squeeze on any publicly owned property, do a legitimate, not just, hey, let's drive by this property, etc., and see how many town-owned parcels we can actually put a single family or a duplex for affordable housing. So I don't think that's going to be a big spend, but let's go through every nook and cranny to make sure that's done. Number 2 is the 4th point in that document, and I'm going to make a little bit of change. I want to increase the property tax burden for low income seniors, but I also want to introduce a property tax reduction for moderate income seniors. We always forget about that middle area, moderate, that's just making ends meet all the time, and we don't seem to fit those needs very well. At least I haven't seen it. So increase the low income, because what is it, $1,500? That should be a lot more than that. And number 2, introduce a moderate, and we can have a discussion what's considered moderate, but that middle income seniors that they can actually enjoy a
How
little
does
bit more
that
pocket
have
cash.
anything to do with the ARPA funds, Tom?
I'm just referring, what do you mean the ARPA funds? I'm just funding these programs.
That program, you're adding something to it, and then the other thing, so you mean to replace lost revenue of that?
No,
This money, the ARPA funds needs to be spent by 2026, needs to be appropriated to that thing by 2024. So I'm
Is
just
there a
trying to
fund?
figure out how that ties into funding from ARPA, just because I just didn't understand.
Is there a fund that this money comes from? And then we fund that fund? Is there a?
There is not, so you'd have to put that
No.
into the housing trust fund of some sort, like,
Yeah.
I guess.
All right, so I mean, if that can't do, I mean, that was the thing is, I want to help out the
And again,
moderate.
there's only money that has to be spent. So if you start this program, that's going to be a limited program. There's only going to be funding for it for a finite amount of time.
Yeah, it's a
Alright.
finite amount of money too, Tom. It's 3
Can I
million.
ask a question real quick? So Tom, are we going in the direction of advocating for some kind of abatement of property tax for a certain section of the population?
I don't know, I mean, any mechanism that would work to hit both the low and the moderate senior income. I just, again, the gist of all this, and I was referencing the HPP, but the gist of it is we only, most of the time, talk about the low income. And what I want to do is put some emphasis on the moderate, because we did have that in the master plan as one of the goals in the housing section. I think, Tom, you're the one, Tom B, you brought this one up, is can we start increasing the moderate affordability housing? And this is the same thing with this one, the moderate senior burden relief. I don't know what mechanism we could do with that.
PPC funds could be used for that, to be put into the housing trust fund, couldn't it? And that way it's not like, where the ARPA funds go away, CPC hopefully won't. We're entitled to, the housing bucket, the affordable housing bucket every year. So, I mean, feasibly, you could put, X amount of thousands of dollars into that out of the CPC funds and put it on a continuing warrant. So that's I'm not saying I disagree with you. I think that's a good idea for the moderate as well. I don't think I'd increase the burden on the lower income seniors, but that's just my opinion. But I think, helping out the moderates is a good idea. And I think, like, the big thing with this ARPA fund is, for me, is to also find if there's other funds available. So this is one-time money. I'd like to see if we can find, permanent money, especially if it's funding a program. And a program like that sounds like, to me, like a great idea for CPC housing funds to do something like that.
A real easy way to do it is put it in the general fund and offset that inflow with a one-time needs-based abatement of property tax.
What in English, what does that mean? One-time abatement?
Free. So like in Cambridge, if you're an owner or occupant in the city of Cambridge, your property tax is reduced by about $2,000 a year. Somerville too. We don't have the commercial tax base to support a residential abatement or residential exemption.
Okay, okay.
But we could use this money for it on a one-time basis.
Yeah, again, that's the idea for that. The level 2 is pretty much, I think everybody has. Let's take a chunk of that money, put into our trust for some kind of land purchase in the future. I know we have to do it within 5 years, and hopefully we can buy something in 5 years. And then going with Jesse said, something, a wastewater treatment on Route 9 will open up a lot more possibilities. But the first 2 are tied to the HPP. And then the last 2 is just, hey, you're gonna give us money, we'll take it and we'll use it within 5 years. And that's the land purchase, or, you know, assisting with the building of affordable housing, single or duplex type of structure. And then, like Jesse said, Route 9 wastewater, we don't have to like boil the ocean on the Route 9 waste treatment plant or whatever. Just that it then will open up a lot more opportunities for that piece of land, for that stretch of land.
Mm.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay, Alex?
I haven't come up with any brilliant ideas beyond what's been said. My go-to complaint or wish is that we could put in some sort of a sewage treatment plant or tie in with the NWRA. But apart from that, I don't think $3 million is going to go that far. So I think what we've got, just my overall thought is, we'd probably be best to pick a specific project that can be done for that amount of money. Because if we're going to do a development, it's not even going to, if we would put that as an incentive in the for the school, that would be good. But I don't think it'll be done within the 5 years. So I just think we've got to be careful. My only thought is I think we've got to be careful to pick something that would that money could handle, because I don't think it's going to go very far.
Alex, we're not going to get the $3 million in its entirety. We're going to get a very small portion of it. So that's
even more so than
we're
even
not
more.
going to
I
get
sort of
that. We're not
echo
going to get that.
Alex's point on this. I mean, we all think the sewer upgrade and wastewater treatment plant would be brilliant, but I'm not sure if it's within Shopc's little echo of the world to do a major, municipal improvement project like that.
No.
I think it's a little bit beyond us.
No, and it's not our purview. We have to stay within our purview as a committee and not overstep into somebody else's. We can suggest
But we are.
It is
a
our
voice.
purview. Because
No, we are.
voice
No,
for
we
the-
are, Jesse. I agree with you. We can suggest it, but again, that's not something that we would be overseeing, or I think what we should be looking at are things that is within our purview, and we can suggest the wastewater treatment. That's actually a very good idea. But we really want to give them ideas that we can use the money within our confines of what our parameters are as a committee. That's what we should be looking at.
Or whatever you see, I'll disagree on that. I think if you can have your top 4 wish list, you can put it on whatever you want. Like if enough committees say, hey, we want to do that because, we need housing on Route 9. And then you have, I'm just on a committee I'm on. Not that I support this or I'm saying that or anything for that, but EDC might go along with that. Somebody like planning may go along with that, saying, we need more business there. Who knows? So
I didn't say not to suggest it. I'm just saying.
no, but
that we
whether
should
it
be
gets
looking
done or
for
not,
ideas.
I agree, but it is definitely in our purview to suggest it. Now, something
I
that
said
would
that.
suggest,
John, that's exactly what I
understand,
said.
I'm not arguing with you, Dorian. I'm not saying that at all, but you said we should, I was just making sure that it should get sent and just stating my opinion and my comments. So I apologize, but.
No, you don't have to apologize.
So
But
what I
we can
would do with
suggest
some
it.
of this money, Jesse, is are we zoned on Route 9 for affordable housing? And is that something we could have looked into? Are we zoned for affordable housing only on certain parts of Route 9? Because I know that the zoning changes at different parts. So is that something we could look into, put aside to look into? Is that an in-kind thing? Is that I don't even know how that would work.
Thank God Karina's on this call. Anytime there's a zoning question, I have to check the map because I can't remember everything exactly. Karina, can you step in on that one?
Yeah, if there are already housing along Route 9, such as Madison Place. Behind Walgreens is a small development, all which have affordable housing components in them. So it's not impossible to do. There is zoning in place that would allow that, whether it's a 40B or some other avenue. So yeah, that zoning is available there. Can it be tweaked to make it, more encouraging for developers? Possibly.
Is it by right or is it special permit? Because I know like where the Andrea was, I think Jesse and I discussed this before, and I don't believe that parcel was.
Well, there's not many uses that involve multifamily and such that are by right, because those have to really be vetted. So I'll
think
have
I
to look
I can
precisely.
chime in on this a little bit because I was on the zoning board that approved both those projects. And just so we're clear, those Madison Place and the project behind Walgreens were not zoned for that under the base zoning.
Oh, they weren't.
They're both 40B projects, which if you remember, 40B is an override to your local zoning. So no matter what is zoned for, 40B comes in, if they say, hey, we have a 40B project, I'm oversimplifying it, we trump whatever the zoning is.
Right.
So 40B is always a good mechanism as a state funding for project-specific funding. You know, it's not local zoning, it's a state program if you do a project to do it. So it's not zoned. And so 40B is a good mechanism to create affordable housing. But, you know, since we're reaching the end of the 10%, there's becoming less and less incentive for developers to do more 40B projects because the incentive is going away soon. So I think we do, back to the point, I don't think that there's particular zoning for affordable housing. I think the way affordable housing is done is through like the MRD, and there's a senior housing bylaw as well, which I don't know the vagaries of, but it's sort of, and I think those are permitted, but I think the overall point is still a good one, that I think we should look at the zoning to remove barriers to doing affordable housing along Route 9 and other places in Southborough.
John, are you thinking of converting one of the vacant office buildings to possibly do affordable housing in there? Is that what you're thinking?
No,
or-
there are, I don't believe
Okay.
there are any vacant buildings
Okay.
anymore.
All right.
No, I just mean, like, I'm just saying, I know there are parts of Route 9 that didn't have, not only, I'm not gonna say low income, I'm just saying just didn't have by right ability to build housing at them or weren't zoned for it. The zoning, I didn't know if we could, say, oh, we'd like to have, I'm just throwing this out, would like to have $20,000 to hire an outside consultant or contractor, take a look at the zoning between blah, 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 and blah, 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 if you want just an area Route 9, or if you want to do all, from the Route 9 at Framingham all the way to Route 9 at 495 or Westboro, to see about by right, to take, I'm thinking to take to make it easier to do, I guess, to
Right.
take some of the,
All right,
I just
Karina,
want to clarify that when you talk about by right, that means you still need major site plan.
right, I
Okay.
understand that.
But you have to understand when you put in larger projects, it does trigger special permits because there are additional things to worry about when you put in larger projects. So I'm just trying to clarify that, for example, with the downtown district, when that was written and accepted, it included enhanced by right thresholds to address getting mixed use and into the old BV section that is now becoming the downtown district. So it's kind of the same with housing projects. You have by right, single families, 2 families or such, but when you start triggering larger projects, the major residential development special permit puts in place certain things that the town wanted at that point to promulgate into that development. So yeah, the MRD isn't super clear and it has some issues and can be worked out. But in looking through the zoning districts, I believe that's the avenue for, along Route 9. You can do those things. It's just that you have to go through the proper permitting.
But could you do it, like, would you just use the downtown? Like now, I think, I don't know what what is it, 10 units or less than that. I don't remember. But do we even have anything like that? Doesn't have to be huge, like 200 units. Do we have anything that would make it easier for somebody to, I don't know, put in like, what do they have, like 10 houses, 10 units over by St. Anne's on Boston Road? I don't know how many are in
Yeah,
there.
that's six. That was a flexible development under a major residential development.
Do we have anything like that on Route 9 is what I'm asking.
I'd have to look. I can't say off the top of my head. If someone who has history in the town may be able to say if there's any projects there. Like Tom said, the one behind Walgreens is if that's a 40B. If that's not a 40B, then that would be an example. I believe that was, it's called Woodwind Meadows. But
Do we even consider that to be on Route 9? I consider that to be on Oak Hill Road.
yeah, it's close, but it's a little bit behind, so. But I understand Dorian is speaking to that, if Shopc wants some studies done to answer questions like this or come up with enhanced zoning along Route 9, like the EDC is currently looking to pursue with the one-stop grant. Those are the kinds of things I think Dorian was implying that money from the ARPA funds could be used to pay for studies, which then lead to possible, hiring someone to create a design or a warrant article. And then it comes to fruition, not just spending money on tangible, here's a piece of property, put a house on it, but like these zoning revision type goals.
Yeah, it sounds like this whole discussion sort of loops back to-
articulated what I said inarticulately earlier. That was sort of my, I agree with that to use some of these ARPA funds to have somebody do a total zoning review.
Like Tom was saying.
And so what I was saying earlier, when you have a bunch of committees putting in for the same thing, it makes it easier for the select decision that the town wants it. Like, I know that the ARPA committee pulled all the town surveys and master plans and all that together. We're going to be going over that tonight at our tonight's meeting to see what's been a common theme, which off the top of my head, I know is sidewalks. Every single survey, study, master plan that anybody's always said, it's always connectability and sidewalks. So, that's a common theme. So if most of the committees come in with a common theme, I think
momentum, right?
Hey, Tom and Karina, just follow up what you guys were discussing to do that comprehensive zoning. Is there a deliverable from that besides what can be done, or you do the zoning, you identified parcels, and this parcel will yield? I mean, what is the deliverable of that? At the end, what do we have?
I think it's, and I'm talking more, I'm sort of feel like I'm a mouthpiece for what some of the consultants have told us over the past couple of years when they've looked at our zoning, which is to say, hey, you've got you've got several obstacles in your zoning bylaw. You should go through your zoning bylaw and try to remove some of those obstacles and maybe revamp some of your provisions that make it easier for people to get permits for more dense housing and for affordable housing, like elderly housing. So I think the deliverable is the consultant comes back and says, okay, here are I'm making it up, 6 provisions of the zoning bylaw, which are major obstacles. There's parking requirements here that no developer's ever going to make, blah, 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 blah. Then they deliver that to us, and then we translate that into a zoning warrant article where we say, hey, we want to change the zoning to get rid of these obstacles and to maybe create, tying into this discussion, maybe create a new zoning district along Route 9 or whatever we decide is important to help, create a zone that's specifically zoned for that. So I think that's a progression. The consultant does the analysis or recommendations. Yeah.
One point of topic here is that easier is not always better for the town. So it is good to have a goal to open up the ability to do more, but you have to seriously also remember that you want quality projects. You know what I mean? Because, over the 5 years I've been here, and, the planning board can speak to this on occasion, but the level of design that's coming in for some of these projects is not the level it should be. So when that's all I want to say. You have to, if you open the door to too easy and you're not providing specific things that the town should pay attention to, you're going to end up with bad projects. You
Yeah,
might
but I think
get
as a
some-
first measure, removing obstacles is, I think, something we can all agree on. Like if the MRD says, hey, you can have affordable housing, but only if you have 3 single-family homes on the lot, then no developer is going to do it. I don't think we're facilitating easier
Yeah.
projects by removing that obstacle. It's just a matter of removing obstacles to remove
Yeah.
obstacles to developers wanting to do,
I
affordable housing.
understand. Just a cautionary note though, because
No, totally.
I
adding
have-
these projects is important.
I have a question. I don't know if anybody here can answer it. So if you're developing, say you're going to develop a housing project. We do not have sewer. We need septic. Is there a limit? I believe it goes by bedrooms. Is there a number that's a magic number that you can't go over in a one big project with the use of septic? Like, is there a number of bedrooms that is the max that can go into a system with a project like that? Or
I think it depends on the land mass and the size of the system, right?
Okay.
So that's all variable.
It's based on
based-
gallons that a project generates. So there's a certain amount of gallons per day. And when you reach certain thresholds, like 10,000 gallons per day, it then gets triggered, not just local, it goes to a DEP level. And then there's other thresholds that when you go beyond that, then you need a treatment system itself, which requires annual maintenance, a manager to oversee it and all that. And so there's kind of like 3 stages as you design septics.
okay, thanks. So I haven't done does anybody else have anything I haven't added? I wanted to add my list too. I haven't done
Sure.
that. I had also stated like, I think it was Tom Marcoulier, to buy land. I think we should try to buy a piece of land to develop into some type of a affordable housing, either a duplex or a townhouse or something. And then I really think we should be able to hire a consultant to take a look at that South Union project, the 21 Highland, and survey it and actually take a very hard look at what we could develop in that land and in that space on 2 fronts. A, keeping the building and converting it into something that's usable, like 4 different units with storage in the basement, or removing the building and using the entire thing. And I know it's a historical building, but again, we should look at all options and give all options to the taxpayers and let them make the decision. That's not our decision. So those are the 2 that I thought we could use some of the 3 million for. So I was in agreement with several of you. So does anybody have anything else they want to add? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I just want to add, Dorian, can I add one thing?
Yeah.
And maybe John can answer this. When Tom Basitko referenced a program to cover mortgage payments or something using the ARPA fund, is that considered debt? Do you know, John?
no.
That's not.
No,
that's-
I don't believe so. That would be considered, because a lot, it's to help with financial hardships for the community and citizens through COVID, because some people may have just had a rough few years because, maybe their business is trade shows and there's no more trade shows. Maybe their business was restaurants and nobody could come in, things like that. So,
Okay, I just thought
No.
mortgage might be considered debt. Okay,
no,
Right.
the town debt, you can't put it, like, we couldn't use it towards paying
Municipal
for a
debt.
school or to build it, you know what I mean, to existing
it.
debt.
okay, thanks.
And by the way, Sarah knows way more about this than I do, so I'm glad she's here.
I have done a lot of research on ARPA, but yes, individual rent and mortgage assistance is definitely squarely covered under the ARPA umbrella.
Okay, so my understanding is, and I've talked to Sarah about this, it looks like the towns, Sarah, I think I need you to speak to this. So there's something about the standard allowance and what the town should be applying for, which gives us more than the $3 million. It gives us 10. So the
Well,
town.
no, it doesn't increase the amount of allocation, but it allows the allocated funding to be used more flexibly, in terms of expenditure. So the final rule, when it was issued in January, had a provision for what's called a standard allowance, and it allows municipalities to elect this kind of broader expenditure of funding versus doing the actual like calculation that was in the interim final rule. So reading directly from the final rule on page 246, the Treasury has incorporated a standard allowance option into the final rule. Recipients may choose a standard allowance, which under the final rule is set at $10 million. So there are municipalities, throughout the country who have received over $10 million. So they can only take this standard allowance up to that $10 million threshold. So it does not give additional funding, but anybody who's under that 10 million can use their entire allotment for general revenue replacement, general government services, versus staying squarely within those ARPA categories. I mean, many communities are deciding to still expend funds within those ARPA categories, but it broadens that scope to increase spending for other things that are general government services like infrastructure. So infrastructure was not covered under the interim final rule. So things like sidewalks, street repairs, those were not covered under the interim final rule. However, in the final rule, if you adopt the standard allowance, that is kind of an opening for using general government services and not having to calculate that revenue loss based on a very in-depth and detailed formula.
So the bottom line is we need our town accountant when we do this, when we send in for this, Carla needs to state that the town wants to adopt the standard allowance so that we have a little bit more freedom in how that money is being used. Okay. John, did you get that? Learn something every day. Okay. Do we have to send something to the ARPA committee about what we're thinking for the use of that money? And when do we need to get that to them by?
We asked for all responses by the 15th. So
Okay.
if you get them before that, even better, because we're going to start compiling them all and figure out how we're going to do that.
Okay,
And,
Sarah, can you and I pull together a list and we'll get that off to John? Do you want us to send that to you?
No, to the chair would be great, please. Her name is Andrea Hamilton, A. Hamilton at Southborough.
Is that Al's wife?
Daughter.
Okay. Okay.
By the 15th.
Okay. So Sarah, you and I can work on that and then we'll get that off to Sarah Hamilton, who's the chair of ARPA,
Andrew?
our town committee, ARPA committee.
I think it's
Andrea
Andrea Hamilton.
Oh, what did I say? Andrea.
That's okay.
I wrote down Andrea. Is that not what I was?
You
right?
said by name, but that's fine.
Oh my God. You know what? It's a long day. I just got home from Disney. I'm tired. Okay. All right, so we'll take care of that. And next, the EDC One Stop. Did everybody look through their application? So you got two things. You got the actual application that they needed to fill out, and then you have what they're thinking of sending in. Where you can see it's the blue. Those are their answers.
Right, that's the answers.
Does anybody have any comments?
I would just echo my comments before. I mean, can we get some of the same concepts expanded to include not just economic development, but also,
Housing.
housing, affordable housing, removing obstacles to housing, just like they're looking to remove obstacles to economic development. It's my general theme today.
It sounds like to me from the discussion, it would make a lot of sense to combine both of the Tom's ideas into one consulting kind of process to really look in depth, holistically at the town in terms of where the housing blocks are, and not really focus on Route 9, but just in general. And then simultaneously within that discovery process, look at the town-owned affordable land, and what does that build out look like? Because those two things seem to be, very kind of compatible in scope. Whereas I think that looking at affordable housing, at least from my read of the expression of interest, it's not quite concurrent, But
Right, but
I
this is-
fully 100% support, doing that in-depth analysis. I just think that separating it out
Not
might
part of this.
give us a
Okay.
clearer picture. That's all.
I see. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's
In other
all.
words, we would make somehow down the road, do a separate application for funds specifically to affordable housing. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That, I mean, either through ARPA or through the one stop, you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't have to be like a huge, amount of money, 15, maybe 20,000, but just.
Yeah,
just so that-
why be a distant fifth priority?
Yeah,
if it's
I just-
Martinsville, then, yeah.
Right. I just don't want our message to be diluted into something else, and, whoever is doing it really needs to be more focused, more singularly
I agree with
focused.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a focus of Route 9 for business development. I don't know. I'm not really, to me, it's a little vague. I'm not really understanding what the idea is of the project is. It's pretty general. Reading through what they're looking for. So,
Yeah. I mean, and
I'm not really sure what,
I think that was the
What is it looking
feedback that the state gave last time around on this particular initiative, was that, it wasn't sort of pointed enough. And once again, I do think that there's a lot of broad concepts to sort of encompass, but perhaps, trying to craft the language so that it is a little more direct might yield a better result. But in general, obviously, I support the thoughts and concepts within the application.
okay. So we don't really have anything to add to this one stop.
I don't think, other than the fact that, again, I personally can say I support it, so I think if folks, want to just say yay or nay, we can at least, give that amount of feedback back to the EDC, saying that in general, we think that this is, good application ideas.
Okay, so I guess we should do a motion to let EDC know that we, after reading through their application, that we agree with it. We generally agree in scope what they're trying to do. Tom?
And maybe on the condition that if we do a similar one in the future for affordable housing, they agree to support us.
Right. They better back
Well, I
us
think
up.
there's like there's other grants within this that we can apply for housing, from what I read. So that has nothing to do with this specific application. So does everybody agree with that? We should just send them a note that we agree with them in concept with this application as it is? Generally agree with
Be
it?
fine with
Okay,
that.
so do we have a motion to that effect? Make a motion to notify EDC that we agree with their one-stop application
Sounds good to me.
conceptually,
Conceptually, perfect.
conceptually.
So moved.
Okay, who so moved it? John? Okay, John. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Tom. Okay, this is roll call vote. Alex, you're muted.
Aye.
Okay, Tom M.
Aye.
Tom B.
Aye.
John.
I'm gonna
Muted.
abstain.
Okay, Alex, Jesse, sorry.
Aye.
And Dorian is aye. So we have one abstention and the rest are a yes. Okay,
The
moving
only
right
reason I'm
along.
abstaining is I'm on the EDC as well. Just
Yeah.
kidding
No,
you, but
I
watch
understand.
this one.
No, that was, thank you, John. I
Just for
totally-
clarity, who motioned and who seconded?
Motion was done by John, seconded by Tom B.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Dorian, I have to jump off in like 2 minutes.
okay. MBTA, Sarah, just want to speak to that quickly. Planning board had a meeting.
Sure.
I think we should
And
be involved in this personally. I think that we should be included in this process. So go ahead.
yeah, planning board met on Monday night, and Jesse and Karina, please feel free to chime in because I have not had an opportunity to review. But in speaking with Karina, she noted that the planning board was discussing MBTA communities, as an initiative, and kind of wondering who maybe stepping up to take the lead on that. My impression was that this board would sort of be the driving force and sort of the communicator between the state, as we have been, sort of as things have evolved and rolled out. And then we would bring that information to planning and to Board of Selectmen, in terms of the kind of procedural steps, in making the changes that are necessary for zoning and such. So that's my synoptic view. Happy to have any kind of insight from Jesse.
Yeah,
or
my
Karina.
my one quick chime in was that
Yeah.
the 21 Highland
Sure.
is, separate from, it could be part of that, but it doesn't have to be.
Sure,
I wanted to make sure that was sort of clear.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I'm in the process of communicating with the Board of Selectmen to have a joint meeting with the planning board. Initially, we were hoping to be invited to the March 1st Board of Selectmen's meeting, but I have word from Mark Purple that he's suggesting that town council could be available for the planning board meeting on February 28th instead, and that the Board of Selectmen would have a joint meeting with the planning board on February 28th. And one of the topics would be the MBTA communities. Just to codify, or not codify, but just to clarify, who's going to be promulgating the MBTA community requirements and providing them to the Board of Selectmen to move that process forward. So the planning board had, just wanted clarity to make sure who's going to handle it and how
Yeah,
it's
I
going
think
to.
Shopc should be included in that, Karina. I think that's
Yes.
our purview. That's what we're working on. And I feel very strongly that Shop should be included in that meeting.
And that's why I asked Sarah to ask you to add this to the agenda this
Yes,
week.
we
so
should be
that-
included in that. Does anybody disagree with me or have anything to understand, Jesse? Thank you for being here today. Does anybody disagree? Does anybody feel strongly the opposite way, or would everyone be able to attend that meeting on the 28th?
And it's still tentative and I'll
Right, but
follow
if
up
we're
with Sarah.
invited,
Yes, absolutely.
whenever it is, would you guys be agreeable to attend that meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I have to post a meeting, or ask Sarah to post it for us.
I would post it just to be safe, even if all of
Right.
us, just in case we have a quorum, but I'll go just.
No, it'll be posted, John, yeah, because we don't want to break any open meeting laws and get a note from Jim. So,
No.
nope, that's okay. Okay, so,
So just to be clear,
Well-
tentatively, it's at the planning board meeting on February 28th, which starts at 7. We have a couple of public hearings before that. So stay tuned. I'll confirm with Sarah and Dorian.
Sounds good.
perfect. All right, so just a heads up, guys, we may have another meeting this month, so I'm sorry. I'm usually pretty easy on you. I guess I'm getting tougher.
That's right. It's really.
Okay, our next meeting in March is, don't know, hang on.
The 9th, I think. March 9th.
I don't think we have one scheduled.
No, we don't.
Does
have-
Yeah,
March
I-
9th?
I have one down here at 8:30 in the morning,
March 9th.
Wednesday for Shopc. So we did talk about it.
On the 9th?
Yep.
Okay, I have a personnel board meeting at 9 o'clock that morning, so I
So
can't
that's
do that.
Not gonna work.
Mm-mm.
We may have made that a long time ago.
Maybe
Yeah,
I
it
should
would have
just,
been.
I could skip the personnel board meeting.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
I'm
No,
No,
I
no.
can't do that. I was kidding. Barry, don't kill me.
Is there a reason we do it in the morning?
Yes. Get it over with. It's easier in the morning, and it's easier to get a Zoom room in the morning.
That's true.
Can anybody do it on the 8th, on the Tuesday, or the 10th on the Thursday? Just to get it in that week, or even the Monday?
Any of those days work?
The 8th, I have a meeting.
Okay,
Both morning
7th
and
or the 10th, the Monday or the Thursday for anyone?
I can do Thursday.
I mean, I guess we could do it the Wednesday night. We could do a night meeting if you guys would prefer to do a night meeting, to do it on the 9th.
No, they're
That's
both
master,
not.
I said master plan.
I can't do it on the 9th. I have a meeting that night.
Okay, so how about Monday the 7th or Thursday the 10th? Thursday the 10th, I guess, try.
I can do Thursday the 10th.
Tom? M?
I'm looking right now. That works fine.
Okay, John, is that okay with you?
Don't know yet.
Alex, is that okay with you?
I'm
Yeah,
flexible.
Okay, so 8:30 a.m.
On the 9th?
on March the 10th.
Nope. I can do that too.
Okay, Thursday, March 10th. We'll send a note to Jesse. That will be our next meeting, and we have a possibility of having a meeting, a joint meeting with planning and the Board of Selectmen over the MBTA communities discussion. So we will let you know about that, but I am going to post a meeting. You'll see it. We're just going to cover ourselves just in case. We can always just cancel it. It's not a big deal, but we'll get covered for it.
I just want to point out that the goal is to have town council there as well.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be there for a trees item, but also hopefully to stick around for the MBTA communities. The town council had put out an advisory to the municipalities that they work with. That was a pretty good description. I think Sarah had provided that to you, so you might want to just revisit it. It's just a 1.5-page letter that outlines the MBTA communities agenda and what's due, because I believe it's May 5th. There's a document due that's an interim compliance document. It's kind of an online form that needs to be filled out. And there's another requirement that you have to have gone to a Board of Selectmen meeting, something like that, and Sarah can chime in. But it kind of describes the 1 or 2 things we have to do before the end of the first week in May.
But is that for us to fill out, or is that for the Board of Selectmen to fill out?
Well, I think it would be for Shopc to make sure either they do it or Board of Selectmen does it, so that we don't miss that.
Yeah, I mean,
compliance.
I think that's sort of the question, right? I would have, if
Yes.
Shopsy is taking the lead on this initiative, I would think that they would be filling it out. So I think that's something to suss out at the meeting on the 28th, is just to make sure, who's taking the lead. Because it will be, I think, important down the road, to have sort of one voice going back and forth from the state, and then that voice kind of talking to the other boards and committees to make sure that the town in general is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if we're gonna do it, I'd like to get that working on that ASAP and get that in as soon as possible. Not
Yeah,
miss
and
the
you can-
deadline.
You can see that form on mass.gov, MBTA communities. So mass.gov, MBTA communities, it seems like a pretty straightforward form. It's just like a formality. It's like the expression of interest that the one-stop grant is looking for. They want to just, have you fill it out. So,
All right, Sarah and I will take a look at that, and then we
Sure.
will send that out to all of you so you can see how we filled it out, and then we can discuss it at our next meeting. Just in case you're
Perfect.
taking the lead, let's just jump on it and get it done.
I like
I
that.
hate waiting to the last minute for that stuff, so. All right, so March the 10th is our next meeting at 8:30 a.m. You'll get your Zoom connection. Does anybody have anything else to add for today's discussions? Okay, well then, thank you for having a second meeting this month. Looking forward to our third one. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week and have a great weekend.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Oh yeah, oh my God, John, thank you.
Perfect.
Second.
All those in favor, Tom M,
Aye.
Tom B,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.